All right, welcome to another episode of Sales After Dark. Victor Antonio, thank you for joining me. I see we got Brian. Man, I love it, Brian. Let me see, let me pull your stuff up there. Brian's from Las Vegas, gotta love Las Vegas. Leon Daly from Jamaica. Oh man, we got, Egypt in the house. All right, man, I love it. Mia Knox, my girl, West Los Angeles. Inkle John, Value Merchant, man, thank you for joining me, Inkle. Always glad to have you. Arvin Tulawar from Mumbai, India, man. Thank you. Ramesh Pawar, man, welcome aboard. Jingyi's back. Canada in the house. Kamlis Sawant. Did I get that right, Kamlet, man? I think I got it. Good morning, man. So, where are you at? Yusuf, Saudi Khan. I'm a salesman. I love your advice in sales. Thank you, man. Thank you for joining me, Yusuf. Appreciate you, man. Shrutesh Godambe. Hello, sir. How are you doing today? I'm hanging in there, brother. I'm hanging in there, man. I'm hanging in there. All right, all the way from down under, Sahil Pandya. I think I got that right, man. Welcome aboard, man. Christopher Pacheco back in the house. How's Arizona? How's that heat treating you over there? And that's right, Eric Klein. Oh, I owe you a video, Eric Klein. Oh, I totally forgot that. I'm so sorry. Eric Klein, I owe you a video, man. It'll be out there tomorrow. You'll have that, man. So Eric Klein's father's going to be, I think, 99 or 100, one of those. So congratulations to him, man. So, wow. Jao Denandrade. I think I got that right. Maybe. We got Jenna Banarba. Jenna, welcome back. Always glad to have you. Hello from Oregon. Alfredo Mazza. Sounds like a brand name, like some Italian suit. Alfredo Mazza, right? All right, so today's topic, I think you'll like today's topic. We're going to talk pricing. And so what I want to do is, let me pull this off the board here. Let me see, we got some first timers here. Let me see, we got, my friend here is from where? First time from upstate New York. Udaman 1K, Udaman 1000, and then here he is. There he is, Victor the Man Tad. Thank you, man, for joining me. Akesh, namaste. Yeah, right back at you, brother. Right back at you. So let's talk pricing today. And let me just turn something off real quick. Hold on. And so what I want to do is, I'm back. So what I want to do is, how many of you are familiar with the company called Gong.io? Are you familiar with Gong.io? Give me a 1 if you're familiar with Gong.io. If you're not, you're in for a treat. I had a chance to talk to one of the directors at Gong.io, and I also, my man, well, I gotta say hi to this guy. We got Zaki Azad. How you doing, Zaki Azad? And then my man, my Puerto Rican brother, Juan Rivera Ramos. Saludos, hermano, gusto verte igualmente. Thank you. Shrutesh, hate missing your live. Don't miss them, Shrutesh, don't miss them. So anyway, if you know who Gong.io is, like Gong, as in the Gong Show. Some of you are too young to remember that. There's a website called Gong.io. Write that website down, Gong.io. What I love about this website and the company, like I said, I interviewed the director, and I got a chance to also interview the CEO, Amit Bendoff, from this company, Gong.io. And the reason I love this company is, first of all, look at that's their website. It's already funky. I love that. That's cool. These guys are really funky. They're different. And one of the things they do is that they analyze conversations. That's their big thing, right? They analyze conversations to really prove or disprove a lot of theories we have about what to say, when to say it, how to say it, what to mention, what not to mention. Instead of guessing at it, these guys actually analyze conversation data. And so last week, or earlier this week rather, there's a report that came out, and I looked at it, I go, I got to share it with my Sales After Dark crew, right? And so this is based, I don't know if you can read that here. Let me just kind of zoom in so you can maybe see this. Hold on a second. Let me zoom in, and it's going to be right there. It's based on, look at this. It's based on 500,000 calls. So this is not anecdotal evidence. You know, this is not an opinion that you're about to get. These are not opinions. These are analysis done on over 500,000 calls. And so what I want to do is I kind of want to just go through what they offer or what they've stated in the report. And this is all about pricing. This is all about pricing. And some of the data in there is quite eye-opening. And so check this out. Anyway, so I highlighted a few things. So here we go. Let's look at this, and then again, what we'll do is we'll play with it. Let me see if I can zoom in on that one. I can probably do it here, but let me do this instead. The first thing they highlight, something really fascinating, is, let me zoom in on this. When it comes to pricing, what they said is don't ever use the phrase list price. I thought this was a brilliant, don't use list price. I've seen people actually use that phrase. Our list price is, don't do that, right? Or say something like our list price, or our typical price, or our standard price. As soon as you say any of these three things, our list price, our typical price, or our standard price, that is signaling the actual buyer that there is a better price, which means they're going to ask for a discount. So again, never use this phrasing. One of the things people always talk about, and we know we have these conversations on the Sales After Dark, is that people say, well, Victor, how do I stop people from asking for a discount? A lot has to do with how you say certain things, how you present certain things. So by using words like list price, typical price, standard price, doesn't work, okay? Keep that in mind. Now, when they weren't used, they looked at sales cycles. This is what's interesting about this data. Zooming in one more time. What's interesting, it says, when a sales rep says these things to a buyer at any point, the sales cycle is 19% longer, which means that by using those phrases, you're actually making the sales process that much longer. So, and they looked at the time frame, and you can see the difference. One was about, I'll say, 60 days. This one's actually that much longer. Now, this is an interesting thing to talk about. Why is it that when you mention list price, standard price, or again, just highlight pricing for them, why is it that it takes longer? Well, let's dig deeper. One might be the fact that when you're stating price like that, they're saying, well, what's the real price? Again, there's a loss of credibility there, I think. There's a little loss of that, and maybe customers will pull back because maybe they don't want to ask for pricing or push too hard on pricing, whatever the case may be. So keep in mind, avoid list price, typical price, standard price is the big one I hear. List price is probably the second most popular. I rarely hear typical price because as soon as you say typical price, that means it doesn't have to be that price. That's just our typical price. Now, the other thing that they actually highlighted here, let me go zoom back into the board again. And this time it says, do use words with authority. So they recommend using the word approved. So our approved price, if you're asking, what do I say, Victor? Well, you say our approved price is this. Now, this may seem minor to you. Like, okay, so it's just a change of words, but no, it's significant. Remember, in the world of selling today, it's not the big things that we have to fix. Most of you know how to sell the big things, right? You know what the sales process, you know how to build rapport, you know about body language, you know about having conversations, so forth and so on. You know how to actually move towards a close. But sometimes it's the words you say, it's how you say it. And in this case, these guys are basing on data. This is what it's based on, pure data. They're saying don't use lists, typical. Used, our approved pricing is, and it's a statement of fact. It is what it is. So again, by the way, if you've heard of Gong.io, hit me with the 1. If you've not heard of Gong.io, hit me with the 0. And what I'm going to ask you to do is, because I really love what this company does, the data they put out, the research papers they put out, incredible information. And again, what I love about it, it's not opinion, it's fact, so to speak. It's data. All right, now let's go to the next one. So there were 7 things. So a lot of you never heard of Gong.io. I'm telling you right now, go to Gong.io, sign up for their newsletter. Guaranteed money in the bank, okay? Now, the third one here, let me just clear the canvas here. The third one here is, what they wanted to find out is, when should you introduce price? Oh, this is a good one. This is a good one. Pay attention. This is going to get good right here. It's like, when do you insert price? Now, I've had this debate with many people, and I love what this is going to show, because we're going to walk through the data, because one of the things I don't like to do is show pricing too far towards the end. That was my mindset. And what they're saying is that their data says maybe it is sometimes better to show data towards the end. So what they did, I'll have to zoom in so you can really see this one right here. And what they did is, so these were the red line, if you can see that, were the successful demos. The purple line were the unsuccessful demos, right? Now, notice what it says. Successful reps talk price later in their calls, after value has been what? Established. Now, see, to me, that is the key phrase. After value has been established. Now, may seem obvious, but most people don't do it, right? So let's look at the data. And what they're showing is this is 0 minutes to almost 60-minute conversation. And look what they're finding. That some people have success right here. See that right there? There's a window of success right here, right? But there's a bigger window of success at the 38 and 46-minute mark. Now, to me, this data is fascinating because when we always talk about when do you insert price, how do you do this? See, I like inserting price early. That's what I train on, inserting price early, because I like the customer to know what's coming their way. I don't want to wait all the way to the end to surprise them. So what I think is happening here, now I'm interpreting the data. What I think here is that they're building enough value. I don't know what the time frame is here, but there's got to be some time where you can actually start building some value at the beginning, right? Whatever that may be. And again, for every product, this is going to vary. So again, this is not a hard, fast rule. What they're saying is that somewhere in here, some people are actually doing it early, while others are doing it late. And the probability when you do it late is actually greater. But what I think is the 1-2 combination, what I take away from this is that somewhere early on, I want to frame the pricing. Do you know what I mean? Like some people need to kind of know, well, kind of how much is it going to cost, Victor? Give me a price range. And so by establishing early price ranges here, that might be a way of anchoring the price early here. You anchor it early, and then what you can do is once you anchor it early, let me zoom in, then you're going to bring price, you're going to build more value, and then again, really drop more specific price here. So I interpret the data two ways. One is you can mention early and you're going to have some success, but if we go by data, if we forget Victor's opinion or anybody else's opinion based on this information, later is actually better. Now, again, one of the things they don't tell you is, well, what type of sales are they? Are these B2B sales or B2C sales? What industries, what markets, so forth and so on. So there's some variations there, right? And this data could change. So for me, like I said, what I take away is that there's obviously a way of actually inserting price early and having some level of success. And obviously, there's a way of adding price later that has some value of success. And maybe what we're really looking at is that, if I can just do this in, let me just do this in yellow, that maybe what we're really looking at is that as you're ramping up your value proposition throughout your presentation, that's kind of what you're doing. You're building value as you go through this presentation. So again, what I take away from that is that you could insert early or insert later, but later, based on their data, seems to have more success than inserting early. So this to me was kind of an aha moment. Like I learned something like, okay, would I still introduce price later? I got to be honest, I wouldn't do it. By the way, I would mention price later, but I believe framing early is probably very effective as well. Frame early and then, start narrowing in on their options. That's how I would do it. But anyway, tell me what you think of that data. Cool data, 1. Boring data, 0. Cool data, give me a 1. Boring data, give me a 0. Before I go to the next one. All right. By the way, let me know if you guys are liking this type of content that I'm bringing you. Or, is this too much? Is this too heavy? Or is it, let me know. Give me some feedback on what you think of this content while I take a sip of this. Seltzer water. All right, cool. Ran some barrels back, man. All right. Akash Bakshi. Love it. All right, cool. And like I said, leave me some feedback on what do you think of this type of content. Do you like this type of content? Is this too much data? And again, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to balance, like everybody has opinions about selling, but man, let's go to the data, man. You know what I mean? Let's see what the data's showing us. So that's what I love about this company. So, all right, now, here's some more interest. By the way, I only have 7 points, so this is not going to be a long, rant on pricing. But love it, man. Thank you for the feedback, Forever Fitness. All right, so on this one, answer with fewer words. This is interesting because sometimes we keep talking when we should just shut up, right? So on this one, they talk about answering. It says when you over-explain. Oh, let me zoom in. I got this. This one I just loved. I love this one, man. When I saw this, I was like, yes. When you over-explain something, when you literally over-explain, my keyboard pad here just went blank for some reason. Maybe it'll come back. But anyway, so I can't zoom in. But it says when you over-explain your pricing. Over-explain. It's back. When you over-explain your pricing, it signals that you're insecure. Boom! You're insecure about your pricing if you keep over-explaining. That's what this data is showing. So in other words, when you just keep talking about the pricing or trying to over-explain, that's never a good thing. What they found here is that, again, either you're insecure about or you don't fully believe your pricing. This is too important just to kind of, you're insecure or you don't believe in your pricing. That's good, man. You know why it's good? Because I'm telling you, sometimes the reason people ask you for a discount has nothing to do with your competitor, has nothing to do with they can get it cheaper elsewhere. They know that already. The reason they ask you for a discount is because the way it comes out of you, that little hesitation, that little insecurity, they can sense that. That's the signal they're talking. You start signaling that you're not secure about your pricing, and then you don't fully believe it. And because you don't fully believe it, you make the customer nervous. That's why I said never apologize for your pricing. Your pricing is your price. You never apologize for it, right? Stop doing that. And so when they looked at words used to answer what's your pricing, so when somebody asks, what's your pricing, this is really interesting. What they found is that top performers use less words. You know what I mean? About 30, 40% less words and say, that's my price. In other words, they don't over-explain. They use less words to actually win the deals. Now, let's come over here. This is interesting also because when you drop your price, what they found, pause after the pricing. Shh, price drop. Then go, right? So, top sellers pause for 2.1 seconds. Now, 2.1 seconds, that's like about there, somewhere in there, right? So it's 2 seconds. What I love about confident salespeople is that they can drop a price just like that. Just go quiet. You drop the price. And they're okay with that silence. And a lot of salespeople feel like they need to fill that space after they drop price. I drop it and I wait for it to hit bottom. And I'll wait and let them respond. And so what they found here is top sellers, zooming in again, top sellers pause for 2.1 seconds after price explanation, signaling rock solid confidence in their pricing. That's what they're signaling right there. And so again, top reps versus average reps. Notice 2.1 seconds. Here, they don't even wait a second before they start talking again. And again, I think that transmits that, man, you're just like nervous. You know what I mean? And so again, it's what you say. It's how you say it. These are great tips, man. They're great tips. All right, man. Good. I'm glad you guys are loving the data. I didn't know if this was going to be too data heavy, so I was like, I don't know. But you know, again, we'll try to keep it easy. But these are some great tips in terms of selling. And so what I'll do in the description on YouTube for my Sales Influence channel. By the way, if you haven't subscribed, subscribe. You know the deal. And then what I'll do is I'll put a link to the webpage or where you can find the actual report. It's a simple report. And again, I love the way they lay it out. It's very cool. It's very funky. All right, now let's talk win rates. All right, now we're going to get into some money. Let's talk win rates. So this was interesting. Number 6, win rates are highest when budget is discussed on the first call. Boom. Now, this is interesting. This is like really interesting. I don't know if you get excited about this, but I do because this is like cool data backing up stuff. Too often people don't want to talk about pricing. And so what happens is they leave that first meeting without getting into pricing. No mention of pricing, 7% close. In the first call, If you mention pricing, close rates are 49%. Think about that. And again, 31, 40%. Now, you can argue that there's no difference between these two. My point is that people like to know what their price is up front. Not mentioning price is never a good strategy. People want to know what things cost, because if you walk out of there and you don't give them a price, they're going to wonder, well, what does it cost? We never even asked. We never even discussed pricing. What do we do, right? So that's not cool, right? And so that right there is awesome, man. By the way, do you guys talk about pricing right away? Because I want you to combine this with the first point, which is mention price early in the conversation or later. They recommend it later based on the data. But the point is, you gotta mention pricing. Coming over here, win rates are highest. This is the last point, by the way. Win rates are highest when pricing is discussed on the first call. And again, the data just lines up. Notice the decline there, right? That's all I have for you, man. That's great data that I thought. What was mind-blowing for you guys? Tell me what you, right now, give me some feedback on what you thought was interesting. And I'll repeat the points, by the way. Let's go back through them real quick. The first one, don't say list price. I want you to give me a number 1 through 7. Let me know what you like the best. Don't say list price or typical price or standard price. Always use approved pricing, right? So this is 1, 2. Give me that one. Do you like that? The second one, when to actually introduce pricing, sooner versus later. Number 4, again, when you drop price, use few words, pause after pricing, 2.1 seconds, boom, you got it. And then last but not least, again, you got to mention cost or pricing in your first call. So there it is. There it is. So anyway, number 5 for you guys. All right, let me look at some of your comments now, man. So I know I missed a few of these comments, so I'm going to go backwards here. Let me see if I can get a blank screen here going. So I'll start here. Tony, man, thank you for the feedback. Yeah, it's dope. Keep going. Keep it coming, coach. Good info. Brian, Gator Morrell. Victor Tan, thank you very much. Eric likes that. Irene likes that. Tahir says, cool data. I think so too, man. Leon, cool, man. Thank you. Of course it's useful. I know, dumb question, right? My bad. Excellent, cool. Number 4, big. And damn was for something. I don't know which one it was for, but it was good. Great info. Bobby Wittes, great stuff today. Thank you very much, man. Appreciate you. And I just got to highlight this name, Ransom Barrow. Dude, love that name, man. When you know your value, you stop giving discounts. Isn't that the truth, Tony? Isn't that the truth? And I'm telling you, people can sense it in your voice. Rod Vidre, always in the house, man. Victor, love it. How do you know when to shut that hole up? Saying enough and not going into fable-telling mode. How would you measure the optimum amount of information to deliver? That's a tough one, right? Because we always joke about people talk past the sale. The customer's already in. The customer's just like, I'm ready to buy. And you just keep talking. And I think people who keep talking, it's just nervous energy because they're insecure, they're afraid. And it's hard to teach. It's hard to teach moderation, like when to stop and have that awareness to say, you know what, I think I've said enough. And I think I would, if I had salespeople and I would practice with them, I would want to hear them drop price and then say, train them, let the customer respond. Even if it feels uncomfortable, let the customer respond. I think that's the only way to learn. But yeah, it is tough to shut up sometimes because you want to keep talking. And sometimes you're going right past the sale. Sibel Dal Alba, I'm loving this data. I hope you got the pronunciation right. Solid go, thank you, man. Me and Knox is digging it. All right. Data validates each point's made. You got it, man. Leon Daly. Juan Rivera says, great insight, Victor. Thank you, brother. Yes, you have to believe in what you said. And when I just started selling construction, I was scared. 0. I get you, man. Hey, we all been there, man. We all been there. Because initially when you start out, it's kind of, sales is scary, man. Exactly have to be confident in what you say, especially when it comes to pricing. I'm telling you, you've sensed it. You can feel when people actually know that you're not convinced about your pricing. Must discuss price and always ask for the sale every single time. And I think there was a study, right, Brian? I think it was like 67 or almost 70% of salespeople never ask for the sale, which I think is a shame. Love the 2 things. Perfect. Number 2. Number 5, Jen Lane's going with number 5. Love it, man. What can I do if my service is personal? I need to interview my client before being able to calculate the price. That is a great point. So sometimes you have to like customize the actual service, right? But you already know, I mean, you know your business well enough. If you can't give them a price, what people want is a range. And I think there's something to it. And I talked about this in the past series I did, is that when you give people a range, Sibel, it's like part of their brain calms down. Now, you can give them a range. For example, you say, look, my price is somewhere between $5,000, depending on what you want, all the way up to $15,000. And I'll say something like this, Mr. Customer, I say, here's the range of what I think it's going to cost. And I know you're hoping to be closer to here than here. Is that right? They're going to say, yeah, I'm hoping to be closer there. And so my point to you is, give them a range. If you can't anchor the price, give them a range because they want to know something. They want to know that they're in the ballpark. But also, when you give them the range, Sibel, if you really pay attention, you can gauge. It's almost a way of qualifying people. By giving them a price range, just watch the reaction or what they say. And if they go, okay, that to me is a buy signal. Keep going forward. If they're like, ooh, that's more than I expected to pay, then we have a qualification problem, right? In other words, they don't understand pricing, and we have to explain that to them. So great question. Great question. 5, still, one digs number 2. Number 2, it's a badass point. Love laying out the value proposition before talking price, right? We try to build up to that. And again, I believe that also. You got to give them some value. You just can't walk in and say, all right, here's the price range. You got to give them some value. Jocelyn says 5. My niche is house designing. Sibel, even on house designing, for example, you have to know kind of, right? Like per bedroom on average, what is it going to cost? Depending on the type of, let's say I interview you for, let's say I'm the house designer. I come to you and I'm talking to you. I look at your house and I'll tell you how many rooms are we looking at doing. So you got the number of rooms. I'm looking at the number of windows, doors. I can figure out what type of treatment that they want, right, for the windows. If they want any type of special furnishing, I mean, you can begin to start putting some stuff together, right, at least some averages. And if you don't have that, if it's still too complicated, I would ask the customer, personally, I would ask before I got there. In my interview phone conversation, I would say, well, give me an idea of what budget you're working with. Or even if you're at the house, I would say, give me an idea of what type of budget we're working for and tell them to give you a range. Give me a low end and give me your stretch number. Give me your low end and give me your stretch number. That's what I call it, right? I would say, can you give me your lowest number and then give me your stretch number? A stretch number is if I show you all the type of things you really want, that you would stretch your budget to get there. That's the range. And then based on what you give me, I can figure out what we can and cannot do. Maybe that's the way I would do it. So Juan says 2 and 5. Number 1, I like it, great. Eric says 3. Great first time. Love the approved price concept, man. Mike Janice in the house, man. Thank you, man. A bunch of 3s and 6 from Eric. Great info. Carlos Portales, man. Thank you for joining us, man. Jeffrey Anthony. It makes so much sense, doesn't it, when the data tells you? So again, I highly recommend go to gong.io and sign up for their newsletter. Always great content. CF Jackson, thank you very much. Data is interesting, but your explanation is mind-blowing. You're too awesome, man. Thank you very much. All good points, but the 6th one is very interesting, isn't it, right? I think that was, let me see, that one right there. Win rates are highest when budget, not pricing, budgets are discussed. So this one's Sibel, going back to Sibel's question, so I'm glad you brought that up again. Remember, this one's talking about, when they're talking budgets, I mean, when you start talking budgets, you start talking number. There's a level of commitment there. So Shritesh, I'm with you, man. When they start, whether you bring it up or they bring it up, you start talking money, that's when you can feel the discussion move forward. And if they're scared, it's gonna stop. But like I said, I love talking money. 1, we use standard price. Let me see what you said here. While giving quotes. That's okay. It's all how you frame it. Again, you can say approved pricing, but as soon as you say standard pricing, again, what they're saying is that might trigger them. So, sir, when we have to give a discount, where's the rest of that one? And by the way, I'm not saying you're never going to have to give a discount. I've given away discounts. I mean, I fight before I give away a discount. Do you suggest promos for startups in red ocean? So in a red ocean scenario, what Uncle John is saying, it's a highly competitive market. Red ocean, a lot of competition, a lot of blood in the water. Blue ocean, not a lot of competition. In a red ocean scenario, it really depends, Uncle John, on your strategy. If you want to like take market share, which I've done before, I wanted just to take market share. I either put my prices at market price or I dropped them below, understanding that I was going to lose some money on some of the deals, but I really wanted that. So it really depends on your strategy. If I'm trying to acquire a client that my competitor has, and I really want that client, because in the long run, if I look at my lifetime value of the customer, I know that in the long run, I'll get my money back. Then I'm going to come in with some very aggressive pricing, promotional pricing, just to get them to look at my product. So I'm with you, man. Leon 4 and 5, very cool. Your last 2 video content was great too, especially how to handle rejection. The second to last video. Thank you, man. Appreciate the feedback. When you give price, do you look down? Do you look down or at the client? Gotta look at him, man. Without glasses though, Carlos, without your glasses, man, okay? I look at people, just give them the pricing. It's like us talking because people look at you. There was a study that Carlos, you might find this interesting. They looked at a buyer and a seller. Buyer, seller. What percentage of the time do you think the buyer was looking at the seller? And what percentage of the time do you think the seller was looking at the buyer? And what they found is that here's the buyer, right? And then here's you, the seller. They found that the buyer was actually looking at you. I think the number was like 80% of the time they were looking at you dead in the eye. Because when a buyer's talking to you, they're looking at you because they want to make sure. They're looking at your eyes and make sure you're not lying. But what they found is that sellers only maintained eye contact, which is why your question is important, 30% of the time. Wow. In other words, they weren't looking. So they could have done that, Carlos. They could have looked down while they gave them pricing. So what they suggested in this one study is that by increasing your eye contact to at least 50% improves your credibility with the customer. So the answer is, look him in the eye. Don't be afraid. Look him in the eye. So do that. So hopefully that answers your question. So let me see what I got down here. Heather Santora, look at this. This lady is very special to me. For those of you who've never seen my show, I have a show on, it was on Spike TV. It's called Life or Debt, where I was the host of a television show called Life or Debt, where we work with families. And Heather was one of the people on my show, and she is like my crown jewel because this single mom, at the time, I think you had, 8 or 9 jobs, Heather? And man, you got to watch the series. Again, it's on Amazon and Hulu, but Heather's story, single mom, 2 kids, turned it around. She's awesome. We fought a little bit at the beginning, right, Heather? Just a little bit. But at the end, we were friends, man. She's awesome. So anyway, 49% close rate, but you mentioned price on the first call. Running up, that's it. Runner up, talking past the sale, right? Too much. But if you got a 49% close rate, you're doing pretty good. A cross-sectional study of different industries, aggregate average, Heather, puts the number at 40. So if you're at 49, whoop, whoop. In fact, just for you, Heather, you get that, okay? Sibel said, thank you very much. I hope that helped, okay? Hope that helped. When giving a price range, let me clear this out. Let me see, Brian, what you got. When giving a price range, should you try and position so the middle number is where you actually want it to be? Kind of like the 3 options. The answer is absolutely correct. You know, I talk about this with my 3 hamburgers, right? Because the way the brain works is, you know this already, Brian. If I put, let's say, $30, you can make it bigger if you want for your business, $30 here, $50 here, and then let's say I put $80 here, the majority of people will drift towards the middle when 3 options are offered. So that's why it's always important. In my opinion, I always want to bookend what I want them to buy, which is what you're saying, Brian, which is dead on. If I want them to buy this, if I start from that point, I'm going to create something that's just a little lower and something that's just a little higher. And maybe I can, if I have a product, and maybe I only have one product, but maybe I can wrap some services around them, right? To kind of make the price higher, or in the product, I could take something out and just make it a little lower, whatever it may be. But if you only present, you know this also, Brian, if you only do 2 pricing, 30 and 50, if they don't know you, the majority will what? always choose the lowest price. So your point is exceptionally well taken because offering 3 prices moves them towards that middle price every single time. Excellent point, man. Excellent point. All right. What else we got here? Let me see. 49% close rate by mentioning rate on the first call. Yes, that is money. Yeah, I missed that. You're absolutely right. It's just such an interesting data point, right? Just an interesting data point. It took me a while to learn to appreciate silence, Victor says, CF Jackson. Have fun with it, right? A lot can be learned from the prospect after the silence. Would you agree? Victor, look at that. You're even trying to sell me. Would you agree, Victor? Talk about leading me already. Here's what's interesting. I'll share this one with you, CF, just between you and me, right? And that is, in one study, they'd show that when somebody finishes talking, let's say your client finishes talking, that if you simply nod and don't say anything, they will on average give you 25% more information. Let me say that again. When the customer's saying something and they stop talking and you just nod like, I'm with you, don't say anything, that gives them permission to keep talking, and that silence makes them uncomfortable, so they feel like they need to kind of say something else. And they give you 25% information, and maybe that 25% could be critical, CF, could be critical. So great point. That's what I wonder. Are promos a good idea? Promos are a good idea if you use them strategically, Jocelyn. So it's never is it or isn't it? It's never that. If you look at the context of how you're trying to use it, what's your goal, your objective, the outcome you want, that's what makes it a good or bad type of deal. Again, if you're trying to get new customers, get people to try your stuff, I'm going to be promoting all over the place. So yeah, I would highly recommend it. So Heather's back with that. Yeah, thank you. Can you ask for the sale too soon? Yes. That's why when they had that little value, we're talking about building enough value, Jocelyn. It's knowing. See, the art of selling, not the science, the art of selling is knowing when to sense it. Like somebody I think it was Rod was talking about, how do you get people to shut up and just ask for the order? See, that's the art. The art is knowing when enough is enough, right? When enough value has been built. And if you have a standard presentation, after a while, you do it a couple of times, you can sense where that value point is in your presentation. So if I got a 1-hour presentation, I'm hoping to have them in the bag, so to speak, by 30 to 40 minutes. Like they're bought. Like I want to see them doing this. And then I know I can move in for pricing and kill, so to speak. So it's about knowing and judging. So I love that. What's your view on good, or rather not so, old? Start high and move low and then negotiate price, knowing that they won't go for the large number. But then how low can you go and not undermine your product? So, 2-part question. So the first part is, should you use a strategy of anchor them high and then work low? The answer is yes. If you don't want to frame them with the pricing, you can just say, look, I said we have a fully loaded option that has everything you want, and that's going to be about $100,000. And this is the package that I think best fits your needs, right? So you could anchor them low. And then just when you anchor them high, you could anchor them high early. And then when they see that number, kind of let's walk through it, Rod. Let's kind of do a social experiment here. If I told you that something was going to cost you $100,000, or let's be more realistic, let's say something's going to cost you $10,000, your immediate reaction might be, what? $10,000, right? So this is why I like to anchor price early. So if I have a presentation that runs an hour, 60 minutes, I'm going to build enough value, but somewhere in here, I'm going to drop my first anchor. I can drop an anchor, $10,000, or I can drop a frame, right? So now I know that when I drop that 10,000, making the number up, I know that the person's going to go, ooh, that's more than I expected to pay. And I get that. I said, this right here, our typical product that we sell is $10,000. But then I'll add something like this. I just dropped the anchor. I said, but let me go through this presentation because there might be some things you need or don't need, and then I'd like to show you some other options. But my point here is I've already anchored them at 10, so they're like, oh, that's a lot of money, right? So now every time I talk value, like it includes this, it includes that, it includes that, it includes that. In their brain, they're going, okay, so that's what's in that 10,000. Okay, that's what's in that 10,000. I also get that. Yeah, you also get that. Yeah, you also get that. Yeah, I also get that. And then when you move towards the end, I said, now, based on what I've asked questions, Q&A, based on what I know of you, I said, we got the $10,000 option, but if I were you and I was just starting out, I would rather you buy the $8,000 option because it has just what you need for the next 6 months. Now, if we're thinking long term, you might want to go to 10,000, but this is really all you need. Notice what I did, Rod. I anchored them high, then I downsold them. Anchored high, then I downsold. And only sold them what they needed. What am I trying to do? Build some credibility. Why? Because I'm looking at the long-term game. They buy this one, they're going to buy more later on. So I don't know if I answered that, but that's one way I would handle it. Heather, you're so nice. You're too sweet. Thank you. You're awesome. Listen, he'll make you rich. I'll make you some money. That's what I'll do, Heather. But thank you very much. You're awesome. Thank you, Carlos. I'm new sales agent, and your podcast audios have helped a great deal. If you don't know my podcast, go to Sales Influence Podcast. We'll be kicking those up again. Whitworth Automotive Policy gave me one. This is my first time here, but the info is awesome. Jorge Ferrer. Dude, you look like a movie star in that picture, man. Thank you for joining us, man. I appreciate that. Heather, you're back again. Love it. If you seriously implement even half of BA's advice, your life will be incredible. He is light years ahead and cuts all the BS. High octane info. So grateful. Thank you, Heather. You're awesome, man. Again, check out the series Life for Debt. And I mean, her story is just incredible. Camlish. So one. Day before you discussed about 11 persons decision-making in the B2B was absolutely perfect. Ask customers as he was close. This week, we'll try number 5, pause after pricing. Yes, there it is. And by the way, Kamlesh, coming up on one of these Sales After Darks, I'm going to talk about how do you deal with 11 people, right? How do you build that consensus? So stay tuned, more to come in future series. Akash, you're very welcome, man. Thank you. Shrutesh, if people have a casual approach, is it worth giving them a detailed quote or a price range? Price range is good enough. You can tell when somebody's just like, yeah, what does it cost? But remember, Shrutesh, one of the things I do when people kind of go, well, what does something like that cost? I said, well, it depends. It could be from here to here, but let me ask you a couple of questions and maybe try to take control of the conversation a little bit. Because maybe once in a while, you might get lucky, and even though it sounds like a casual question, maybe they're really interested. So find a way to pull them into that conversation, okay? Inkle John, value merchant, says always, man, if you're selling life insurance, do you suggest to sell fear? I mean, okay, so it's a good question. I'm not going to run from it, Inkle. I'm going to deal with this one because I don't like fear mongering, scaring people, but I do like making people aware of what could possibly happen. So again, one of my coaching clients, he sells disability insurance, and one of the things we worked into the script, which he's killing it. One of the things we worked into the script is how do you talk about not so much fear, but that anxiety or the what if, what may happen. And I think it's how you frame it, because if you come across as just trying to scare people, people are going to pull back. But if you come from a space of concern that says, look, I've seen people and I got stories. Here's what's happened to them when they didn't have the insurance. Here's what could happen to you. Here's what it's going to cost this much for long-term security. You got a family. If you really explain that, I think that's a much better way of doing it. So are you scaring them? I guess. But I like to think it's making them aware of what could go wrong, because life isn't 100% guaranteed. So hopefully that answered your question. So never price online. Heather, good question, because you're bringing up one of those sore points. So it really depends. I'm gonna give you that one. It depends on the context and the business. For me, for example, I've been told as a speaker, trainer, never put your price on the website. But people don't want to go to your website and have to call you to ask you about price. So I put mine on there. And a lot of friends have told me, a lot of speaker friends have said, that's not a good strategy. But it's been working for me. Why? Because it reduces the number of phone calls I get. I only get calls for people who've seen my pricing. And if they've seen my pricing already and they still call me, my close rate is through the roof. Where in the past, if they didn't know the pricing, they would be shocked at the price when I gave it to them. So I personally believe for my business, my situation, my context, Heather, I would rather put it online. So it really is, it depends. Because I know other businesses don't like to do it because their competitors will look at their pricing and I'll price them. So there's reasons for that. So I don't know. That's the answer. I think it really depends on the business. But it's a great question. But thank you for asking. CJ, what do you got? Appreciate the secret tip of the nod during the silence. Quick follow-up, Victor. How to implement your tip during the silence over the phone? First person that talks type of thing. I mean, what I do is when I'm on the phone with somebody, I build momentum. I usually get agreements, CJ. So CJ, let me ask you a question. I said, in your world, is the sky blue? Good. I said, do you like animals? No. I said, can you tell me why? And so what I did there is I built this yes momentum or questioning momentum, and then I just stopped. And you'll be amazed when you do that, people will just pick up the actual slack. So it's really about how you lead up to that question before you go silent. That's the real trick. That's the art of the sale, right? So hopefully that helps a little bit. So it's how you build up. What if people have different communication styles? Person with direct style might want price disclosure at the beginning only. How to work with it? Great question, Tyrone. We talked about this in the past, right? You have some people who are very social, not really serious. You have some people who are very amiable, I said. They love to talk. They love to have a conversation. They don't really want, you can talk first, build value, get the price. Then you have the people who are very analytical. Analytical people typically like some facts and details, and they know you're going to get to the price eventually, right? But you just got to go. You got to stick with facts, no stories, just facts, facts. Now, the dominating personality, just tell me how much it is, and let me decide. That's the person you just say, here's how much it costs. Doing here and here, can I ask you a couple of questions? And I can narrow in on what it's going to cost you. So in other words, if somebody says to me, Victor, just tell me what is it going to cost for me to fly you in to do some sales training? I said, here's the range, right? Boom, $15,000 to $25,000, right? I said, but that really depends on what you want me to do. Let me ask you a question. How many people are we training? How many people will be in the room? How much time do I have? Well, if we're only going to train for an hour, hour and a half, you're closer to 15 than 25. That's it. That's a direct personality. They want it right there and then. So it's a great question. So again, how do you work with it? Don't be afraid to work with it. That's how you work with it, right? Cool. All right. How would you deal with this? A customer cancels a booking last minute. Hate that, right? I post on Facebook a deal to fill that canceled booking, but a customer who has booked in a few days ahead wants that deal too. Wait a minute. I post on Facebook a deal to fill that canceled booking, but a customer who is booked in a few days ahead wants that deal too. Dude, you got to be careful how you price things, because if somebody else sees it, you got to give it to them, right? Because now what happens if you don't? Well, now the guy feels like you just screwed him because, okay, so you're not going to give me the discount, but you just gave it to somebody else you don't even know. And so you got to be really careful when you do that. So all I can say is be very careful, because I know you're trying to fill the booking, and again, if you can move them in, personally, I would give it to them. That would be me. You know what I mean? You got to find a way to be consistent in pricing. I think that's always the trick when you're dealing with multiple markets, right? When you're dealing with multiple markets, in your case, multiple clients, if you put different prices out there and people see them, people feel taken advantage of. Now, sometimes if the price is small, like 5% different, nobody's going to care. 10%, maybe. But you start getting the 20, 30% difference in pricing, they're like, what the heck? Why didn't I get that deal? And then all of a sudden, they're going to ask for that deal. So, be careful with that one. Yeah, that's a tough one, man. That's a tough one. Listing your price online. Is it advisable at times? I understand what you're presenting. No online prices would be listed. No online prices would be listed, right? Let me see. Listing your price online, question mark. Is it advisable at times? I think it is. For example, if I remember you have a boat, right? You bought a boat, right, Heather? And if I'm leasing that boat, I'm putting the price online because that's my price. My price is my price. I know what my bottom line price is, so I'm going to put my price. And so it really comes down to how confident are you with price. And so if you're comfortable with a price, do this. I'll give you an example. A friend of mine was asking me, he said, Victor, how much should I charge for an online workshop? Because he wants to publish the price, right? How much should I charge? And I said to him, Heather, he says, price it as if only, because it's a 1-hour webinar, I said, price it as if only one person's going to show up. And if only one person showed up, what would be the minimum price you'd be happy with? Right? And he threw his price out there. I said, well, there's your price right there. Because if only one person shows up, you got the price you wanted. If nobody shows up, well, no time lost. So I don't know if I'm answering your question, but it depends on what you're presenting online. So again, if you're not afraid of pricing, people are going to look at your price, but I still say, it's people buy you and your product and your quality. So I don't know if I helped you on that one, Heather. Sorry if I didn't. Make them feel as an investor instead of a buyer. I'll go with that, Shrutesh. All right, you just answered the graph about early and late times for issuing price. Dropping the anchor can and many times will solidify the sale without going any further. Yeah, I mean, it really depends. What I love about the data, Brian, is that, it highlights that towards the end, right, they're putting down price. But notice that there were some earlier success stories. And so maybe one could argue that the data was skewed towards the later part because that's where most people present price. And maybe the numbers were lower on the beginning, towards the beginning, because not many people do that, because that's not very standard. So there's another reason for the disparity maybe in the actual data. I still say anchor early or frame them early and then lock it down later on. So that's how I would do it, man. That's how I would do it. Appreciate it. What would you say if they asked you for a price on an initial cold call and just won't let you off the hook, and then, as you say, get that payment? Nah, that's too much, thank you. So what would you say if they ask you for a price on the initial cold call and just won't let you off the hook, and then as soon as you do, like let them off the hook with pricing, get the famous, nah, that's too much. When somebody, again, you don't have a pricing problem, you have a prospecting problem. If you had a lot of people coming calling you all the time, you wouldn't be discounting, right? So think about it this way. When I'm talking to somebody and they go, well, Victor, just tell me how much it costs. Well, here's the range. That's all I can give you. It's almost like Sibel's question, right? It's like if you don't, I need to analyze things before I can give you a price. So the price between here and here, right? Bigger than the breadbasket, smaller than an elephant type of thing, right? And so I'll give them the range. He goes, whoa, that's more than I expected to pay. I said, I understand. I said, but if you go around online, you're going to find that all prices are within that range. Or the other question I ask is, well, how much research have you done on pricing? And usually you're going to get well, not a lot. And that means now you're dealing with an uninformed buyer. So you're almost like having a conversation with a brick wall. So I don't know if I'm answering your question, but when people want the price, I just give it to them. Because if they're just hunting on price, let it go. I don't want them. But if they want quality service, then I want to talk to them. Then they want to talk to me. So I don't know if I answered your question, but let me know. Waiting for your top 5 must-read book recommendation. I know, Kanishka, I know. I'm just having a hard time putting together that list. So one day, Muhammad Ali. Always great info in your videos and sessions. Thank you, Muhammad. Appreciate you right back, man. Thank you. Right here. We list MSRP, right? Manufacturer suggested retail price, right? Online, as it is the same number for everyone. Customers know they will never pay the MSRP, right? There's like cars, right? They know they're not going to pay that in some cases. But this allows us a wide range of latitude for presenting authorized pricing. That's correct. I mean, look, if you walk into a customer's office and you got a blue book, right? And it says list price, customers know that these are list price. Then the follow-up question they're thinking is, okay, that's list price, which we all know. If we all know it's list price, there's no secrets here. Then their only question is, well, how much of a discount do I get off of list price? Then, with authority, I would drop the discount on them. 20% is our standard, well, you can't say it's our approved discount rate, right? That's what you say, it's our approved discount. So that's one way of actually dropping a discount rate. That's how I would vary that data. So I would drop the approved discount rate for your market niche. But that's a great point, Brian. Thank you for bringing it up. We got Ramesh. A very informative conversation, Victor. I never felt comfortable, maybe never thought or felt comfortable with sales, but now only first session, I think I can make more of it. Thank you, Kamlesh, for the recommendation. Kamlesh, thank you for recommending Ramesh. Ramesh, this is not that hard, man. Really, it's really just having a conversation. Selling is a conversation, and it's an honest conversation. It's an open conversation, a direct conversation. And as soon as you lose that fear, just lose that fear, right? You'll sell more effectively. Just don't be afraid of people. That's it. Just learn. Don't be afraid of them. What are they going to do? Say no? Nobody's ever bled out because they said no. So you're not going to die from it. So, okay, Jocelyn, me too. Cool. We got Craig Ward from Gilbert, Arizona, man. Craig, thanks for joining us, man. CF is back. Yes, it's a dance. My job is to not step on their toes. That's all it is, right? Have you done a Sales After Dark on partnerships and partnering? I have not, but that's a good one, right? You know, somebody indirectly asked me a question about how do you bring partners together? How do you work with people directly? And I think one of the strategies I was talking about is co-ops. Have you ever done co-ops where you share the actual advertising with a distributor or somebody? Would love to hear it. But maybe one day, CJ, we'll do partnerships. Good topic. 100% this out. Thank you, Heather. Thank you. Sam Amber. Victor, thanks. Actually, starting the price online establishes clarity and fairness. I agree with you. I fell a victim to price discrimination. The seller charged me twice as much as others, high ticket sales. And when you get that, doesn't that just like, I'll never buy from that person again, right? And today, you know, with the internet, whether it's Yelp reviews, net promoter scores, all this stuff, I mean, that's the last thing you want. So there has to be this transparency of pricing. So back to the example of somebody cancels and somebody in the future wants that pricing, well, you kind of have to give it to them. If they can make it, I would be like, well, if you can make it, you'll get the price because I want that repeat business. So I love it, man. I believe in transparency, man. When I discovered his discriminatory behavior, I asked for the full refund immediately, and he complied, right? And then that's it. It ruins it. Sam, it just ruins it. I don't want to work with this person anymore. And that's, you know, it's just harsh. Victor, thank you. Inputs are valuable. Thank you, Tarun. Appreciate it. I'm going to start winding down here so I can get out of here. Yes, my family is coming from Italia. Victor, that was why my last name is Mazza, Alfredo Mazza. You should get suits or something, Mazza, something cool, man. I love it, man. Let me see. Please suggest some automate marketing and sales software or apps. Oh, it's such a big one. I got to do one on automation. One of the things, especially automated marketing, right? So one of the big topics is account-based marketing, which is, you know, using different software packages to actually send out emails, voicemails, continue a cadence. So Shrutesh, bear with me. Something is coming your way on Sales After Dark, right? Where I will talk about different software. In the last conversation we had, somebody was asking me about, end-to-end software. And I found a real good company. It's here in Atlanta. It's called Terminus. You might want to look them up. It's an interesting company. Terminus. And it's an interesting company. I mean, by the way, there's like so many companies out there, you know, selling apps, technology. So it really depends on what you want to do. The technology landscape is littered with all these startups. This is almost like the dot-com situation when back in the day, if you remember, all these dot-com companies were blowing up. Well, right now, all these app software companies, especially infused with AI, machine learning, they're everywhere. It's like the Wild West right now with all these software packages. The problem is people have so many software packages, they don't know how to integrate them, and that's the whole thing. Now, how do you put a common data platform or common management platform together? And that's a challenge for a lot of companies. So that's a big question you're asking me, Shrutesh, but check these guys out, man. I think you'll like it. First time watching, very valuable. You answered questions I didn't know I had. Boom. There you go, Dami. I love it, man. Thank you. Let me know where you're from, man. Let me know where you're from. Please visit India someday soon. It's on the bucket list. I want to go to India. I think I would enjoy it. I missed the beginning, but I am going to rewatch the recording later. Peter, thank you. Brighton Moza. Man, where's that name from, Peter? Where's that name from? Ramesh says, thank you, man. You're very welcome, man. Victor, how to price with friends and relatives for products and services as they will ask for discounts. And again, Ashish, I would always have if I got family and friends, I'm going to give them a discount. It's just the way it is. It's family and friends. But I would just say, now here's where I would use the discount. Like it's a standard discount. I would create one. And what I would do is just say, if you have standard pricing, drop it 5%. Drop it something that's nominal, 5 or 10%. Treat them a little special. Remember, treat your family a little special. They're going to recommend you. They're a source of marketing also. So, sheesh, be nice to your family, man. Be nice to your family. If your family's watching this, tell them to be nice. Jada says, hola, hola. Peter says, I am Swiss, but living in Taiwan. Wow, all right, international, love it. Ashish, again, also suggests top list of email marketing automation tools online with unlimited sendings with client. Email marketing. By the way, have you tried, there's a website, this email list I used a while back. I don't want to forget it. You just brought something up. This one I know off the top of my head. There's a website called, I think it's called MailerLite. I think they're out of the UK, Ashish. And what I love about them is that there's no limit, and the prices, I think the first 1,000 subscribers are free. Incredible pricing, better than MailChimp, better than a lot of these email marketing companies out there. Maybe not as sophisticated MailChimp, but does the job. So that's one idea. But yeah, that's a big question. Like I said, there's so much technology out there to deal with. Dami, Nigeria, now living in Canada. All right, man, what a change. Quote of the year. Nobody ever bled out from the word no. That did come out of my mouth, man. So anyway, all right, guys, I'm ending this. Again, if you like it, great. Here are my final thoughts, man. So again, look at pricing. Don't be afraid to talk about pricing. Don't be afraid to really let the client know what things cost. Remember the big point. Mention pricing in the first meeting. Second, don't hesitate when mention pricing. Now, also, don't call it standard, don't call it typical, just call it approved pricing. And again, I still think there's a debate here about whether you should present pricing early or later. The data says present later, but I have a sneaking suspicion you should probably present 15, 20 minutes into the presentation and then frame or anchor some pricing, but definitely at the 40-minute mark, drop more pricing, right? And let them know and go for the close. And again, if you really like this content, man, again, if you haven't subscribed, do subscribe. All I ask is that you share this with at least one other person. Just send them the link, just share it. And if you get a chance, check out my Sales Velocity Academy. If you haven't checked out the Sales Velocity Academy, you should. If you love this content, you'll love what's in the Academy. On that note, I am out of here, my friends. Have a great night. And for some of you, have a great day. Take care.